Let's discuss non-profit organizations. Non-profit organizations or NPOs. So class, NPOs are non-stock, non-profit institutions, okay? And they operate for purposes other than profits. Other than profits. Kaya tinawag siyang non-profit. So, magandang examples, class, of NPOs are Philippine Red Cross. What else? UNICEF Philippines. Ano pa? Gawad Kalinga or GK. Ano pa iba yung alam na NPOs? Let's say yung Bantay Bata. Okay? Ano pa? Caritas Manila, yung mga religious organization. And in TAPS, if maalala nyo, nag-discuss tayo doon ng non-profit hospitals and universities. Okay? Kasama din dyan, class, yung mga foundations. For example, SM Foundation or MVP Sports Foundation. Yan. These are examples of NPOs. Now, class, sabi ko dyan, they operate for purposes other than profits. Kasi yung purpose nila, may pwedeng educational purposes, charitable, religious, medical, humanitarian, and so on and so forth. For example, si Red Cross, nagko-conduct yan ng mga medical missions, mga dental missions. Okay, let's say may mga calamities, for example, may typhoon, meron din mga relief operations yan, or blood donation. Actually, nagdi-distribute din sila ng mga testing kits for COVID-19. Okay? Now, yung UNICEF naman, ang focus nila is more on general welfare of children, okay? Health and education. For Gawad Kalinga naman, class, ang focus nila is sa community. Okay? Provide sila ng mga livelihood programs for the community. Now, as you notice, yung objective nila, hindi to generate profits. Okay? May iba silang purposes. And in that case, siguro i-ask nyo, sir, paano nila na-fund yung mga programs sila na yan, mga medical or dental missions? Yung funds sila, class, manggagaling siya sa contributions or donations from the public. Okay? So yung contributions and donations from the public, yun yung ginagamit nila para i-execute yung mga programs sila. Got it? Now, class, since this is non-profit, ibig sabihin din yan, walang shareholders. No shareholders, therefore, no dividends. Yan, ang magiging issue natin dito, class, yung IFRS natin, ang assumption doon, for profit yung magpe-prepare ng financial statements. Okay? Non-profit yung pinag-uusapan natin today. Now, kaya as of today, wala pang single standards, okay? No single IFRS dealing with NPOs. Wala pang ganun. That's why ang gagamitin natin, class, is FASB 116 and 117 plus applicable IFRS. Okay? So, class, yung FASB 116, 117, actually US GAAP yan. So, US GAAP yung gagamitin natin. Pag sinabi ko namang applicable IFRS, for example, yung NPO na yan, si Red Cross, meron siyang PPE. Well, obviously, yung PPE, ang gagamitin mo dyan is IAS 16. Gets? So, FASB 116 and 117 plus applicable IFRS. Got it? Now, i-compare natin, class, yung financial statements ng for-profit and non-profit. Okay? Ito yung set of financial statements na kailangan i-prepare ng isang NPO. Number one, statement of financial position po. So yung balance sheet, i-prepare din ng NPOs yan. Okay? So meron niyang assets, liabilities, and equity. Actually, tawag dun sa equity niya is net assets. Hindi mo pwedeng tawagin equity kasi pag sabi equity, may shares. Okay? Wala namang shares dito, walang shareholders. Tawag dyan is net assets. Pag assets, actually, class, same accounting treatment. Sir, ano ibig sabihin ng same accounting treatment? Well, kung ano natutunan natin sa AFAR, okay? Inventory, same accounting treatment. PPE, same accounting. Ganoon na siya. Pag liabilities naman, same accounting treatment din. Kung ano yung alam natin sa liabilities, ganun din gagawin natin sa NPOs. Okay? Dito nagkakaiba yung class sa net assets. Because sa NPOs, meron kang tatlong net assets. We have what you call unrestricted net assets. So, URNA na lang, shorten ko na lang. Unrestricted net assets. We have temporarily restricted net assets or TRNA and permanently restricted net assets or PRNA. Sir, ano ibig sabihin niyan? Okay. Again, class, yung funds ng NPOs magagaling siya sa contributions or donations. Okay, lagay ko dito. Donations / contributions. Pag yung donation is without restrictions, no restriction, mapupunta yan sa URNA, unrestricted net assets. Okay, so no restriction, available for immediate use. Pwedeng gamitin agad yung NPO. Ang classification niyan, URNAs. Okay, no restriction and available for immediate use, dito siya. Pag temporarily restricted net assets, kaya siya temporary, okay? Dalawa yan. Pwedeng restricted siya as to time or restricted as to purpose. Okay? So for example, sige. Example, kas magdo-donate ako sa Red Cross. O sige, Red Cross, ito yung 1 million. Pwede mong gamitin anytime yan. Unrestricted yan. Okay? Sabihin ko na, Red Cross, ito yung 1 million, pero gagamitin mo siya 1 year after. Ito siya. Temporarily restricted as to time. Lagay ko dito. For example, 1 year after. Okay? Ngayon naman, sinabi ko kay Red Cross. So Red Cross, ito 1 million, pero gagamitin mo lang yan sa medical mission. Okay? So medical mission lang. Ibig sabihin, restricted as to purpose. Medical mission. Hindi niya pwedeng gamitin sa ibang types of yung mga programs niya. Okay? So tawag natin dyan, temporarily restricted net assets. Sir, ano naman yung permanently restricted? Basically, class, yung NPO cannot spend the principal. Okay. Ano ibig sabihin niya, sir? For example, class, sabihin ko kay Red Cross. O sige, Red Cross, ito yung 1 million, i-invest mo yan, ang pwede mo lang gastusin, yung interest and dividends. Okay? Yung principal, hindi mo pwedeng gastusin yan. Ha? Ang tawag doon, permanently restricted net assets. Gets? Okay. Now, that's your first financial statement, statement of financial position. Let's go to number 2. Ang tawag dito, class, statement of activities. Statement of activities, basically, class, ito yung equivalent of income statement and changes in equity. Obviously, pag NPO, wala kang income statement kasi wala namang income in the first place, non-profit. Okay? Wala ka rin changes in equity kasi wala naman shares. So, yung equivalent ng income statement and changes in equity for NPOs, ang tawag natin, statement of activities. Okay? So, again, combined income statement and changes in equity. So, bigyan na illustration. Ganito klase itsura ng statement of activities. So, meron kang URNA, you have TRNA, you have PRNA, okay, these three, and then lagyan natin ng total. Papakita ko sa inyo, ha? Now, we have revenues here. Yung revenues, basically, galing yan sa donations natin. For example, lagyan ko ng amounts. Kopyahin nyo muna. 40,000, 30,000, and 10,000. So, that's a total of 80,000. Okay? And then, maglagay tayo ng expenses. Let's say 30,000. And then, dito 30,000. Okay. And then, ayun muna. Lagay tayo ng journal entries, class, para mas maliwanag. So, ito yung journal entries yan. Doon muna tayo sa dito, yung revenues na 40,000. So, may nag-donate na 40,000, walang restriction, lalagay natin siya dito sa URNA. Okay? Debit cash. First, yung upon donation, i-credit mo siya sa URCR. URCR, or Unrestricted Contributions Revenue. Revenue muna siya, 40,000. Okay? And then, sa December 31, i-close mo na yung URCR to URNA. Isipin mo, class, na yung URNA, TRNA, PRNA, para siyang retained earnings. Right? So, revenue muna. And then, sa December 31, may entry tayo. Debit URCR, credit URNA, 40,000. Kasi income statement account yan, kailangan may closing entry ka. Tama? I-close mo yan sa URNA, which is equivalent to retained earnings. Gets? Okay. Journal entry number 2, dito naman tayo, class. Upon receipt, debit cash, credit TRCR, or temporarily restricted contributions revenue. How much? 30,000. Sa December 31, i-close natin yan. Debit TRCR, credit TRNA, 30,000. Gets? Okay, dito naman tayo. PRNA. Debit cash, credit PRCR, 10,000. And then, end of the year, December 31, debit PRCR, close natin sa PRNA, 10,000. Okay? So far, so good. Dito naman tayo sa expenses. Ganito yung class. Pag expenses, number 4, debit expense, credit cash, how much? 30,000. Tandaan mo, class, yung expenses for NPOs, isa-charge mo yan sa URNA. Okay? So take note, URNA mo i-charge yung expenses if silent. Okay? So, end of the year, mangyayari dyan, debit URNA, syempre, bababa yan. Credit expense, 30,000. Gets? Okay, okay pa tayo dyan. So, ito yung income statement equivalent yan, yung revenues and expenses. Okay, yung next row, para sa statement of activities, meron tayo class niya tawag na reclassification. Sir, ano yung reclassification? Class, naalala nyo ba kapag, for example, yung TRNA, nagbigay ako ng 1 million kay Red Cross. Okay, o sige, Red Cross. 1 million na yan, gagamitin mo siya 1 year after pa. Okay? TRNA siya. Tama? So, ang mangyayari doon, class, after 1 year, pag nagamit na yun ni Red Cross, meron siyang reclassification entry. Debit TRNA, credit URNA. Ita-transfer niyan. TRNA to URNA. Let's say this is 20,000. So, out of 30, ang nagamit niya, 20. Okay? Meron tayong reclassification. Mababawasan to ng 20, madadagdagan to ng 20. Gets? Okay, so ito siya. Kaya siya parang changes in equity kasi may mga reclassification ka. Ulitin ko, revenues, expenses, reclassification. So, tignan natin klase yung mga balances. Ang pangalan dito, ang tawag is changes in net assets. Changes in net assets, let's compute that. So, 40 minus 30, that's 10 plus 20, you have 30,000. This one naman is 10,000. This is 10. And this is 50,000. Okay, changes in net assets. Now, add natin yung net assets beginning. And then, makukuha natin yung net assets end. Net assets beginning, lagay na tayo ng random amounts. For example, 10,000. So, this is 40. And then, let's say this is, lahat sila 10,000. So, this is 20,000. 10,000. Ending balance is 20. This is 30. Therefore, 80,000. O, pinakita ko lang. You call it the statement of activities. So, pinakita ko siya kasi class, syempre, bago sa atin yan. Unlike yung balance sheet, Alam naman natin yan. So yun yung statement of changes in equity. Ito yung income statement portion, ito naman yung parang changes in equity. Okay? So that's what you call statement of activities. Let's go to the third financial statement. Statement of cash flows. Okay? Meron tayong operating, we have investing activities, and we have financing activities. So same lang din yan. Di ba, ang alam natin sa statement of cash flows, pwede kang direct method, indirect method, ganun din dito sa NPOs, pwede rin yan. Now, ganito yung malaking difference ng class. Kapag yung contribution, if the donation has no restriction, pag walang restriction, lalagay mo yan sa operating activities. So lagay ko dito, unrestricted donations or contributions, operating activities yan. Okay? Pag merong restriction, automatic financing. Okay? Pag restricted donations, financing yan. Whether temporary or permanent. So ulitin ko. Pag walang restriction, operating. Pag may restriction, whether temporary or permanent, financing. Gets? Pag investing, kung ano yung alam natin. Okay? Ano ba yung investing? Well, purchase and sale of PPE. Tama? So yung alam natin sa investing, same lang. Dito lang tayo nagkaiba. Operating and financing. Okay? And number 4, we have the notes to financial statements. Ayan. So yun yung 4 sets of FS for NTOs. Okay? So class, before we go to our handouts, meron din akong i-discuss muna. Mabilis lang. Ganito yung class. Dito ko lalagay. Sana magkasya. Pero basically, meron mga specific provisions yung FASB 116 and 117. Okay? May tatlong klaseng NPOs na ito yung pine-prescribe na format. Okay? Ganito siya class. Number 1 is mga healthcare organizations. Healthcare organizations, ito class yung mga hospitals and clinics. Okay? Take note, ito yung, again, pine-prescribe ng FASB 116 and 117. So, sa income statement niya, meron siyang gross patient service revenue. Okay? Doon siya mag-start. Again, ito yung mga hospitals, ibig sabihin, mga patients yan. Tama? So, gross patient service revenue, isipin mo, parang siyang, yun yung gross revenue mo, less contractual adjustments. Plus, ang maganda example ng contractual adjustments, yung PhilHealth. Diba? Dito sa Philippines, pag may PhilHealth ka, mababawasan yung bill mo sa hospital. Tama? Less contractual adjustments, less employee discounts. For example, yung mga nurses or doctors or ibang employees ng hospitals, may discount sila. Ililess mo dito yun. Makukuha mo dyan, class, is the net patient service revenue. Net patient service revenue. Okay? Gets? Okay. Now, ingat ka dito, class. Nalagay ko dito, charity care. Minsan kasi, class, yung mga non-profit hospitals na yan, nagko-conduct sila ng mga free check-up, no? Free consultation, free operation, or whatever. Ang tawag doon, charity care. Tandaan mo, class, sa charity care, disclose lang siya in FS. Disclose lang yan. Huwag mo isasama sa gross, huwag mo isasama sa less. Okay? Wala siya dito. Hindi siya mag-appear sa income statement mo or sa statement of activities mo. Disclose lang yan sa FS. Again, yung mga charity care, yan yung mga free check-up, free consultation. Okay? That's your healthcare organizations. Actually, tatlo yan eh. So, gawin ko na lang. Sige, pagkasyahin natin. Number 2, class, yung private, non-profit, colleges and universities. Ito naman yung pine-prescribe na format under FASB 116 and 117. Mag-start ka with gross tuition fees. Okay? Less scholarship grants. Less refunds and cancellations or withdrawals. Okay, you have the net revenue from tuition fees. Okay, so familiarize yourself, class, kasi ito, again, ito yung pine-prescribe na format. So start ka muna, ito yung sa mga schools, no? Gross tuition fee, iless mo yung mga scholarship grants, and then iless mo yung mga refunds, for example, overpayment, or withdrawals. For example, class, nag-enroll, tapos bigla nag-cancel yung estudyante, nag-withdraw siya, ma-minus mo yun. Net revenues from tuition fees. Okay? And then yung third one is, okay, so 1, 2, class, okay lang ba? Dito ko na lang ilagay yung 3. Okay lang? So again, healthcare organizations, private, non-profit colleges, universities. Ito ko na lang class alagay, ha? Okay, so number 3, para wala na ako i-erase. Number 3 is voluntary health and welfare organizations. Okay? Ang magandang example nito, class, is yung UNICEF. Now, sa FASB 116 and 117, sa statement of activities nila, okay? May pinapadagdag, class, no? Pag under ka sa voluntary health and welfare organizations, you have to prepare statement of functional expenses. Statement of functional expenses, ang ibig sabihin lang yung class, kailangan mong i-classify yung expenses mo accordingly. Program or support expenses. Ganito yan. Pag sinabing program expenses, iyan yung related sa, related sa mismong programs nyo, sa projects nyo. For example, class, yung medical mission. Okay? So, medical mission. Yung actual execution yan, yung mismong araw na yun, lahat ng mga gastos mo, program expenses yun. Okay? Pag naman support, iyan yung before pa yung mag-start yung mission nyo. For example, class, fundraising activities pa lang, or mga day-to-day operations, ang tawag doon, support expenses. So, in short, itong expenses na yan, kapag voluntary health and welfare organization ka, such as UNICEF, okay? I-breakdown mo into yan. Okay? Meron kang program expenses, which is basically related dun sa mission mo, okay? Medical mission, blood donation, etc. Yung mga expenses na nai-incur mo sa actual day na in-execute mo yung programs, program expenses yon. Pag naman support expenses, siguro, yung mga fundraising activities, okay? Yan yung kumukuha ka ng contributions or donations or mga everyday expenses mo, support expenses naman yun. Okay? Again, pag Voluntary Health and Welfare Organization or VHWO, magdadagdag ka lang ng Statement of Functional Expenses. So, babalikan natin yan, okay? Sa handouts natin meron siya. Last, let's answer our handouts. Okay, let's go to number 1. A private, non-profit university should prepare which of the following financial statements? Statement of financial position, yes. Statement of activities, yes. Statement of changes in fund balance, no. Statement of cash flows, yes. Statement of changes in financial position, no. So, that's 1, 2, and 4, letter C. Number 2, what are the 3 categories of net assets required by the FASB in reporting for NPOs? So, natin class, URNA, TRNA, and PRNA. So, that's letter A, unrestricted, temporarily restricted, and permanently restricted. Let's go to number 3. Net assets restricted as to time or purpose should be classified as to time or purpose, temporarily restricted, net assets, 1 only. Letter A for number 3. Unrestricted current funds of a private university designated by the governing board for a specific future purpose should be reported as, okay, so class, for number 4, actually, take note nyo to, no? Meron tayong tinatawag na endowment funds. Didiscuss ko lang to, class, no? Endowment funds. Actually, endowment funds, ito siya, yung kanina, yung permanently restricted, di ba? Sabi ko dyan, sige, mag-contribute ako ng 1 million sa Red Cross, pero yung 1 million na yun, huwag mo gastusin. Yung interest and dividends nun, yun lang yung pwede yung gastusin. Ang tawag natin doon, endowment fund. Okay? Actually, class, merong 3 types of endowment funds. Meron tayong tinatawag na regular endowment, number 2, term endowment, and number 3, quasi-endowment fund. Okay? So, sir, ano yung regular endowment? So, again, spend only interest and dividends. So, ibig sabihin, class, yung principal, dapat hindi nila i-spend. Okay? Ang tawag natin doon, regular endowment. And regular endowment, so again, pag silent yan, permanently restricted yan. So, lagi ko dito, permanently restricted. So, record natin siya as permanently restricted revenue, okay, contributions revenue, and then at the end of the year, kuklose natin siya sa PRNA. Sir, ano naman yung term endowment? So, ito naman, class, okay, pwede mong gamitin, lagay ko dito, can use a portion each period. Okay, so sabihin ko naman kay Red Cross. Red Cross, ito 1 million, okay? Interest and dividends ang gagastusin mo, ha? Pero yung 500,000 dyan, o sige, next year pwede mong gamitin yon. Then 2 years after, pwede mong gamitin yon. Ang tawag natin doon, term endowment. O di ba, class, parang restricted as to time yon? Tama? That's why, pag term endowment, temporarily restricted siya. Gets? Sir, ano naman yung quasi-endowment? Okay, ganito naman. O sige, Red Cross, ito 1 million. Pwedeng gamitin yan, depende sa decision ng board of directors nyo. So, pwedeng board of directors, or ano ba ibang tawag doon? Board of trustees. Ayan. Okay, so, depende na sa board of directors nyo. Pwede nyo gamitin yan sa construction ng library, okay, construction ng canteen, or whatever. At tawag natin doon, class, quasi-endowment. Since yung board of directors or yung board of trustee, yung may option kung saan nila gagamitin, well, technically, walang restriction. Okay? URNA naman yun. Unrestricted. So, ulitin ko, regular, pag silent yung problem, okay, pag silent, permanently restricted yan. Kasi yun naman talaga yung setup ng isang endowment fund. Pag term, temporarily restricted, kasi as to time. Pag quasi-endowment, si BOD yung bahala. Unrestricted naman siya. Okay, let's go to number 4. Unrestricted current funds of a private university designated by the governing board for a specific future purpose should be reported as, this is an example of a quasi-endowment, letter A, unrestricted. Letter A for number 4. Number 5, for the year ended June 30, 2021, a university assessed its students, total of 4 million, for tuition and fees. Included in this amount was 300,000 tuition remissions awarded to graduate teaching assistants and 150,000 scholarships awarded to undergraduate students. Tuition and fees totaling 3,550 were collected. What amount should be reported as unrestricted fund as net revenue? So for number 5, this is a non-profit university. So sabi ko kayo na class, pag non-profit university, ito siya. may pine-prescribe yung FASB 116 and 117 kung paano ka magko-compute. Okay? So sundan na natin. This is number 5. Mag-start muna tayo with gross tuition fees. Gross tuition fees, okay? So, syempre class, 4 million yung i-report natin. Accrual method pa rin. Kasi sabi natin, applicable IFRS. Hindi cash method, accrual method pa rin. So, gagamitin mo is 4 million. Huwag yung 3550, okay? So, 4 million here. And then, sabi dito class, less scholarship grants. Meron ba scholarship grants? Yes. Scholarship grants dito amounted to 150,000. Okay? Scholarship grants, less natin yan, 150. And then, may mga refunds ba tayo class? Kung may refunds, ima-minus natin yan. Pero wala namang refunds dito sa problem, so zero yan. Ngayon, yung 300,000 na tuition remissions, wala naman yan sa pre-described na format sa atin. Actually, class, yung 300,000 na yan, i-report mo siya as expense. Okay? So now, yung net tuition fees natin is just 4 million minus 150,000, that is 3,850,000. Answer natin for number 5 is letter D or dog. Ganun siya. So again, familiarize yourself with this. Yung format, okay, makakatulong sa niya. So, madali lang actually yung computation for NPOs. Dapat familiar ka lang sa format. For number 5, it's dog. Number 6, for the year ended June 30, 2021, a private college received contributions from alumni which were restricted for faculty research stipends to be awarded during the next fiscal year. For the year ended June 30, this contribution should be disclosed on the statement of activities as an increase in, okay, so may donation, may contribution, pero pwedeng gamitin next year. Anong tawag doon? Restricted as to time. Okay? So, paano siya i-record? Walang amount eh. Pero pag na-receive mo siya, debit cash, credit TRCR. Okay? End of the year, debit TRCR, credit TRNA. Okay? That's why, answer natin sa number 6, letter B, temporarily restricted net assets. Okay? Boy, kasi restricted as to time. Number 7, ex-hospital, which is operated by a religious organization, received contributions of 1 million from donors who stipulated that the cash be used to construct an addition to the hospital. May contribution, pero sabi ng donor, okay, gamitin mo yan para sa hospital, restricted as to purpose. Okay? As of the balance sheet date, none of the contributions had been expended. On the hospital's balance sheet, the cash contributions would be disclosed in which of the following classes of net assets. Okay, so pakita ko yung journal entry. So number 7, debit cash, credit TRCR, 1 million. End of the year, close natin yan. Debit TRCR, credit TRNA, 1 million. Answer natin dito class is letter A, temporarily restricted net assets. Okay, let's go to number 7. Number 7 pala. Number 8, a private non-profit hospital received contributions of 50,000 from donors on June 15, 2021. The donors stipulated that their contributions be used to purchase equipment. O may restriction as to purpose. O, lagyan natin ng journal entries, yung number 8. Doon mo tayo sa June 15. Okay, debit cash, credit TRCR, 50,000. Right? Next, as of June 30, the end of the hospital's fiscal year, 12,000 of the contributions has been spent on equipment. Okay, so ibig sabihin, i-close muna natin. TRCR, debit TRCR, credit TRNA, 50,000. Ngayon, bumili na equipment. Okay, debit equipment, credit cash, how much? 12,000. Ayun. So ibig sabihin class, yung restriction, na satisfy mo na, nabili mo na equipment. So, meron tayong reclassification. Tama? Naalala mo sa statement of activities natin? May reclassification doon. So, ang entry natin doon, class, debit TRNA, credit URNA. Okay? Reclassify natin yung TRNA to URNA. Siyempre, equivalent doon sa nagamit mo, which is 12,000. Okay? So, yung question, in the hospital's general fund, what account would be credited to recognize the release of restrictions? So, basically, ano daw yung reclassification natin? Letter C yung sagot dyan. Net assets released from equipment acquisition. So, basically, from temporarily restricted, naging unrestricted na. So, na-release na yung restriction. Answer for number 8 is letter C. Okay. Number 9, on the statement of activities for a private, non-profit literary society, expenses decrease which of the following classes of net assets? So, class, pag silent yung problem, okay? Yung expenses, i-charge mo siya sa URNA. Nakita mo yung example natin sa statement of activities, yung expenses, naka-less tayo sa URNA. Tama? Answer natin dito, class, is boy, 2 only, unrestricted net assets. Number 10, a voluntary health and welfare organization, ito, VHWO, okay? Ang magandang example niyan is UNICEF, alright? Receive a 300,000 contribution on April 15 from a donor who stipulated the donation be invested permanently in stocks and bonds. Anong tawag natin doon, class? Pag permanent na i-invest, interest and dividends lang yung pwedeng gamitin, PRNA yan. Tama? Or ang tawag natin doon, class, is a regular endowment fund. The donor further stipulated earnings from the investments be spent according to the wishes of the governing board. Ito yun, yung parang quasi endowment. Saan mangyayari class sa number 8 o sa number 10, yung principal na 300,000 permanently restricted yan. Tama lang? Pero yung interest and dividends or yung earnings, pwedeng gamitin ng board of directors. Parang ito. So, ibig sabihin, unrestricted yan. Dalawang components. Yung principal, hindi pwedeng galawin, permanently restricted. Ang pwede lang galawin, yung earnings, which are basically your interest and dividends, unrestricted yan. So, answer natin dito, class. Okay, earnings from the investment for the year ended 6,000. Answer natin dito is letter C. Okay, increase sa permanently restricted net assets, yung principal natin, which is 300,000. And then may increase tayo sa unrestricted net assets na 6,000 because iyan yung na-earn na interest and dividends. For number 10, answer natin, class, is letter C. Number 11, the disclosure net assets released from the restrictions, or basically yung reclassification natin, is reported on which of the following financial statements? Oh, we know, i-illustrate ko kanina to, nandun yan sa statement of activities. Sa statement of activities, meron kang revenues, expenses, reclassifications, and then yung beginning and ending net assets mo. So answer dito, class 11, is boy 2 only. Okay. Number 12, ex-hospital, which is operated by a religious organization, provides charity care for the indigent living in the region served by the hospital. How should it report the amount of its charity care? So, ano class ulit ibig sabihin ng charity care? Pag charity care, basically yun yung mga free medical missions, okay? Free operations, free check-up, free consultation. Now, sabi ko kanina, i-disclose mo sa FS yan. Huwag mo siyang ilalagay sa revenues, huwag mo siyang ilalagay dito sa less. Okay? Wala siya dyan, wala sa deductions dyan, wala sa revenues. I-disclose mo lang, letter A yung sagot, in the notes to financial statements. Okay. Let's go to number 13. A private college received an offer from a CPA who is an alumnus to teach 1 semester advanced accounting course at no cost. So instead na cash yung i-donate, services. Tama? FASB 6116 prescribes that this contribution of service, actually class, for number 13, letter C yung sagot dyan. Tandaan nyo to. Pag service yung dinonate, okay? For example, this one, teacher nag-donate, tama? So ang donate niya is yung teaching skills niya. For example naman, CPA, ang donate niya is accounting services. For example, lawyer naman, donate niya, o sige, bibigyan ko ng free legal services. Ang tawag natin doon, syempre, yung donation is in the form of services. Ngayon, class, according to FASB 116 and 117, ganito yung journal entry niyan. So, number yan. Number 13. Okay, for number 13, for example, may amount ba? For example, class, 20,000. Okay? Ang entry mo doon, debit expense, credit URCR, 20,000. Okay? So, take note, nag-debit ka ng expense, nag-credit ka ng revenue. Walang effect yan sa statement of activities. Tama? Kasi expense and revenue, same amount eh. Tama? Wala ring effect yan sa URNA. Kasi ito, si-charge mo sa URNA, minus sa URNA yan. Ito, add mo sa URNA. Since same amount yan, walang effect. Okay? Ulitin ko, pag services yung kinontribute, okay? Debit expense, credit URCR. Okay? Also, services yan, tama? For example, facilities. Ito kasi services. Lagay ko dito services. What if facilities? For example, class, yung Philippine Arena. Okay, sabi kay Red Cross. O sige, Red Cross, gamitin nyo yung Philippine Arena. Okay? Diyan kayo mag-conduct ng medical mission nyo. Ang entry din dun, class, is expense din. Debit, rent, expense, credit, URCR. Okay? So, pag services or facilities yung dinonate, instead of cash, ang entry mo, expense, revenue. Okay? So, that's why, babalik tayo sa number 13. Answer natin dito, class, is letter C, be recorded as a revenue with an equivalent amount recorded as an expense. Letter C for number 13. Number 14, in accordance with FASB 116, contributions of services are recognized as increase in unrestricted net assets by a private non-for-profit if the following are satisfied. Increase daw sa unrestricted net assets, ibig sabihin sa URCR. Pero syempre, class, at the end of the year, pag clinose mo na lahat yan sa URNA, net effect yan is 0. Okay? Number 1, ano daw, class, yung qualifications bago ma-meet na yung services as contributions? Number 1, the services received create or enhance non-financial assets. And number 2, the services require specialized skills. For example, CPA, okay? For example, lawyer, are provided by individuals possessing those skills and would typically need to be purchased if not provided by donations. Actually, number 1 and number 2, yan yung sagot natin, class, okay? A yung sagot natin. Yung number 3, hindi yan requirement, no? Yung the services will be performed within the current fiscal year, no? Hindi yan requirement. Answer for number 14 is letter A. Okay, speaking of yung number 3 na services will be performed in the current year. What if, class, yung dinonate, for example, ako, sinabi ko kay Red Cross, o sige, Red Cross, ganito gagawin natin. Magpe-pledge ako sa inyo. Kasi di ba, usually, hindi mo naman agad binibigay yung cash. Tama? Nagpe-pledge ka muna. O sige, Red Cross, magpe-pledge ako na magbibigay ako ng 1 million. Pag sinabing pledge, basically, promise yun. Nag-promise ako kay Red Cross na magbibigay ako ng 1 million. Okay, ganito yung classification yan. Tingnan mo muna if yung pledge is unconditional or conditional. Okay? Unconditional or conditional. Pag conditional pledge, ipe-present yan ni Red Cross as a liability. Okay? For example, ang condition ko, sige Red Cross, magpe-pledge ako sa'yo. Pero ng 1 million. Pero in one condition, dapat yung medical mission mo, umabot ng 500 yung masiservisan ng medical mission. Okay? 500 people. Ngayon, pag hindi na-meet yung 500 people, babalik mo sa akin yung 1 million, ha? Ang tawag doon, conditional pledge. Since merong condition, liability muna yan, okay? Pag na-meet ni Red Cross yung condition din, hindi niya ibabalik sa akin yung 1 million. Pag hindi niya na-meet yung 500 people na usapan namin, ibabalik niya sa akin yan. Therefore, it's a form of liability. Gets? Okay. Ngayon, pag unconditional, tignan mo muna, pag may restriction, o no restriction, or with restriction. So, ganito sabihin ko, Red Cross, sige may pledge ako sa'yo, may promise ako sa'yo, ibibigay ako ng 1 million. Gamitin mo kahit saan mo gusto yan. Okay? Ang tawag doon, unconditional na no restriction, therefore, unrestricted yan. Walang problema. Okay? Okay naman, sabi ko kay Red Cross, ito yung 1 million, no? May pledge ako sa'yo. Pledge muna, no? Promise muna. And then, with restriction. Kaya lang, gagamitin mo lang yan sa blood donation, ha? Huwag mo gagamitin sa ibang projects. Tawag dyan, with restriction as to purpose, therefore, this is a temporarily restricted. Okay? So again, unconditional no restriction, unrestricted, unconditional with restriction, temporarily restricted, pag conditional pledge, liability. Okay? Tandaan mo yan. Okay, syempre, before ka mag-record ng pledge, dapat may measure mo din, di ba? Meron tayong requirements sa accounting, dapat probable and measurable. Hindi basta nag-pledge ako, i-record din niya agad. Okay? Syempre, i-assess din dapat ni Red Cross kung talagang marireceive niya yung pledge. For example, ako, every year naman ako nagbibigay kay Red Cross, pwede niya i-record yan. Pag first time kong magbigay, syempre, i-assess niya yung probability na talaga magbibigay ako. Gets? Okay. Anyway, so minention ko lang, but just in case na ma-encounter niya siya. Let's go to number 15. Okay, actually yung 15, ito na yung, let's say, pinaka-comprehensive dito sa prepare ko na handouts. Sige. So hopefully, mag-gets mo yung number 15. Okay ka na dyan. So, application to ng statement of activities. Tingnan natin, ha. A voluntary health and welfare organization had the following classes of net assets on July 1. So, July 1, yun yung beginning balances, no? The beginning of its fiscal year. So, merong URNA, TRNA, and PRNA. So, lagay ko muna class. So, URNA, TRNA, and PRNA. So, lagay ko dito, beginning balance. So, sa URNA daw, meron kang 500,000, TRNA, 100, and PRNA, 1 million. Ayan, so lagay ko muna. Okay. During the year ended, June 30, or for the year 2021, the following events occurred. It purchased equipment costing 100,000 with contributions restricted for this purpose. The contributions had been received from donors during June of 2020. Tama ba, class? Anong nangyari dito? Naka-receive siya ng donation, pero merong restriction as to purpose. Dapat ipambili niya ng equipment. Tapos bumili siya ng equipment. Tama? Ngayon, yung 100,000 na yun, ito siya. Ito yun, eh. Tama? Nasa June of 2020, July 1, 2022. So, nandito siya. Okay? Ngayon, nabili na yung equipment. Tama ba? May reclassification tayo. Okay? So, ang gagawin ko dyan, class, meron tayong reclassification. For the equipment, reclass. Ayun ko na lang, reclass. Bawasan natin to. Dagdagan natin yung URNA. Ano yung journal entries? May mention ko na lang. Debit equipment, credit cash. Debit TRNA, credit URNA. Tama? Okay. Let's go to the first bullet. It received 130,000 of cash donations which were restricted for research activities, temporarily restricted. During the year ended June 30, 90,000 of contributions were expended on research. Okay. So, nung na-receive natin yung donations na 130,000, so anong nangyari dyan, class? Debit, cash, credit, TRCR, kasi sa research mo lang ito gagamitin eh. And then, okay, lagay ko na nga yung journal entries para malinaw. Okay, lagay ko yung journal entries ha. Doon muna tayo sa equipment. Debit equipment, credit cash. 100,000. Debit TRNA, credit URNA, 100,000. Yun. So, kaya natin ginawa to. Tama? Doon naman tayo sa dito. Journal entry for bullet number 1. Naka-receive ng cash donations. Debit cash, credit TRCR, 130,000. End of the year, debit TRCR, credit TRNA, 130,000. Okay? Sabi dyan, during the year ended, 90,000 of contributions were expended to research. Debit research expense. Credit cash, 90,000. Tama? And then, i-reclassify natin. Yung TRNA, pwede mo nang gawing URNA. Debit TRNA, credit URNA, 90,000. Okay? And then, class, alam natin na yung research expense, basta expense, i-charge mo yan sa URNA. Debit URNA, credit research expense, 90,000. Yun. Lahat ng journal entries. Tingnan natin ano yung effect niyan dito sa statement of activities natin. Okay, doon muna tayo sa 130,000. Well, increase yan sa TRNA. Plus 130,000. Nung in-spend na yung 90, okay, nireclassify natin. So, minus 90 plus 90. Okay? Kaya lang, yung expense natin, sinarge mo din sa URNA. So, ibig sabihin, mag-minus 90 ka dito. Okay? So, this one, net effect is 0. Tama lang? So, ulitin ko. Ito yung nag-contribute, 130. Ito siya. Okay? Ngayon, nung na-serve mo na yung purpose, na gastos mo na for research, nag-reclassify tayo. Ito siya. Pero yung research expense, alam natin, charge mo yun sa URNA. Yung expenses, charge sa URNA. Kaya, net effect yun is 0. Gets? Okay. Number 2. Second bullet, it sold investments classified in the permanently restricted class for a loss of 40,000. So dito class, sinabi na permanently restricted. So yung loss na yan, sa PRNA mo i-charge. Gets ba? Okay. Dividends and interest income earned on the investments amounted to 70. There were no restrictions on how investment income was to be used. Okay. Journal entry, bullet number 2. Tingnan natin, debit cash, debit loss, credit investment. Well, walang sinabi kung how much yung amount, pero alam natin class, meron tayong loss na 40,000. Okay. So end of the year, debit PRNA, credit loss 40,000. So ibig sabihin class, yung effect niyan is yung PRNA natin, babawasan natin ng 40. Alright? And then, nag-earn daw ng investment 70, wala daw restrictions, tama? So charge natin yan sa interest income, tama? Charge natin sa URNA. So debit cash, credit interest income. How much? 70. Okay, close natin yan. Debit interest income, credit URNA, 70,000. So ulitin ko, walang restrictions, so unrestricted. Debit cash, credit interest income, end of the year, debit interest income, credit URNA, 70,000. So lagyan natin dito, 70,000. So class, take note na lahat ng income statement accounts, parang normal accounting lang yan. At the end of the year, i-close natin. Pero sa normal accounting, alam natin, retained earnings lahat. Dito sa NPOs, pwede URNA, TRNA, or PRNA. Gets? Okay. Number 3. It received cash contributions of 200 from donors who did not place either time or use restrictions upon their donations. So alam natin, unrestricted. So lagyan natin dito, plus 200,000. Alam niyo na yung entry dyan, huwag natin ilagay. So debit cash, credit URCR, debit URCR, credit URNA. Number 4, expenses excluding depreciation expense for program services and support incurred during the year amounted to 260,000. Okay, so 260 in total, excluding depreciation. Take note class na nag-record na tayo ng 90 dito. So 260 minus 90, 260 minus 90, how much yun? 170,000. Okay? So 170,000 na lang. Alam natin class, i-charge natin yan sa URNA, 170,000. Okay. So sige na, pakita ko na rin yung entry. For number 3, yung entry natin na 200, debit cash, credit URCR, 200. Charge natin sa URNA, debit URCR, or close natin sa URNA, 200. So number 4, journal entry natin dyan, debit expense, credit cash, 170. Debit URNA, credit expense, 170. Okay? Kaya nag-minus tayo dyan. And last one natin class is number 5. Depreciation expense, 80,000. So we know, pag depreciation expense, minus sa URNA. So entry natin dyan class for number 5, debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation, 80,000. And then, i-close natin yan sa URNA. Debit URNA, credit depreciation expense, 80,000. Yun. Sige, so yan lahat ng adjustments natin. Let's compute the ending balances. Sa URNA muna tayo class. 500,000 plus 100,000 plus 90 minus 90 plus 70 plus 200 minus 170 minus 80. You have 620,000. Ending balance, 620,000 of URNA. Okay. So ulitin ko class yung journal entry number 5. Debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation, 80,000. And then, debit URNA, credit depreciation expense, 80,000. So clean nose ko lang. Let's go to TRNA. 100,000 minus 100 plus 130 minus 90. Ending balance sa ating class is 40,000 for TRNA. And then PRNA, 1 million minus 40,000, you get 960,000. Okay, so let's answer question number 1. The amount of PRNA would be dog 960,000. Okay, PRNA is dog 960. On the statement of activities, question number 2, how much daw yung TRNA? TRNA natin, 40,000, letter, decrease or increase pala. So, from 100, naging 40. Ibig sabihin, bumaba ka ng 60. Letter D, decreased by 60,000. And question number 3, in the statement of activities, reclassifications would be reported at, nasan ba yung mga reclassifications natin? Well, ito, isa. This one, reclass tayo. Okay, 130. And then, what else? Meron din tayong reclassification na, ito, 90. 130 and 90. Okay, so that is, ulit. 100, nasan yung reclassification? Ito pala, sorry. Yung reclassification natin is this one. Tingko, hindi yan. Ito. Yung sa equipment, ito yung reclass natin, tama? 100. And then yung isa pang reclass natin yung sa research expense. So 100 plus 90. Okay, that is letter A, 190. So ang tanong dito class, yung reclassification, ulitin ko, yung sa equipment, nung bumili ka ng 100, nireclassify natin from TRNA to URNA. So that's 100. And then yung sa research expense, ang na-reclassify natin is 90 kung magkano yung nagastos natin for research. 100 plus 90, that's 190,000, letter A for question number 3. Okay. Hanggang ilang items ba to? 23 lang to class, mabilis lang. Let's go to question number 4 pa pala. Which of the following statements are correct about the program and support expenses? Number 1, program and supporting expenses should be reported at 340. O, tingnan natin class. Saan ba yung mga expense natin? Add natin ha. Research expense, 90. Plus, okay, we have 170 here. Okay, lang yan. 90 plus 170 plus depreciation na 80. Ayun, 340. True, yung number 1. 90, lahat ng expenses, 90, so 170 and 80. Okay? Program and support expenses. Number 2, all the program and support expenses should be reported as a deduction from unrestricted revenues. Pag silent, yung mga expenses na yan, babawas natin sa unrestricted. Okay? Number 2 is also correct. Answer is letter C, 1 and 2 are correct. Okay, number 16. During the fiscal year ended June 30, ex-charities, a voluntary health and welfare organization, received unrestricted contributions of 500,000 and temporarily restricted 300. All of the temporarily restricted were restricted by the donor for equipment acquisitions, and during the year ended June 30, equipment costing 250 was acquired with the contributions. As a result of the contributions, the statement of cash flows would report an increase in net cash provided by operating activities. So, let's quick recap lang. Pag statement of cash flows, without restriction, operating. With restriction, financing. Yung investing, normal lang. So, sale or acquisition of PPE. So, ganito gagawin ko dyan. For number 15, or number 16, basically, yung 500,000, so operating, investing, and financing. Okay? Yung 500,000, unrestricted siya. So, dito ko siya lalagay sa operating. Gets? Okay. Now, temporarily restricted na 300, sa financing yan. And then, nung bumili na ng 250,000 cost of the equipment, investing yun. So, outflow siya. Okay? So, inflows, sa operating 500, sa financing 300, meron kang outflow sa investing 250. Kaya answer dito class, would report an increase in net cash provided by operating activities, 500,000, letter A. Okay, letter A. Number 17. In 2021, a private non-profit hospital received a 200,000 cash contribution to its endowment fund. O pag endowment fund, regular endowment, permanently restricted yan. So lagay ko dito operating, investing, and financing. So ibig sabihin class, yung 200,000 restricted siya, so dito siya sa financing. Yun. During the year, hospital administration invested 150,000 of the funds. Outflow naman siya sa investing activities. Basically, wala kang operating activities for number 17. That's why ang sagot dito class, letter B. The 200,000 contribution will appear in the financing activities dahil restricted siya of the cash flow statement. And then yung 150 naman as cash outflow sa investing. Okay? Boy for number 17. Okay, so malapit na. Number 18. A private NPO, Geographic Society, received cash contributions which were restricted by the donors. Pag restricted, saan mo ilalagay yan? Financing activities, letter A for number 18. Number 19, which of the following is a voluntary health and welfare organization or VHWO? Actually, class, answer mo dito is letter A, okay? Charity raising money for underprivileged children. So again, ang example ko sa VHWO is UNICEF. Tama? Now, yung nursing home, clinic, and hospital, ito naman siya class. Healthcare organization naman yan. Okay, so yung BCND, Healthcare Organization, yung A is VHWO or Voluntary Health and Welfare Organization. Letter A for number 19. Which of the following statements is required for VHWO but not for other NPOs? Ito, Statement of Functional Expenses, letter B. Sir, ano ulit yung Statement of Functional Expenses? Basically, yung expenses mo, ika-categorize mo into two. Program expenses and support expenses. Pag sinabi mong program, related yan dun sa mission, okay? Dun sa actual execution ng mga programs. For example, medical mission, blood donation, etc. Pag support expenses, yan yung mga everyday expenses, okay? Mga administrative expenses, yung mga fundraising expenses, okay? Program and support. That's boy statement of functional expenses. On the statement of functional expenses, how are expenses classified? Letter C, program and support. Number 22, on the statement of activities prepared for private non-profit hospital, patient service revenue earned during the year, saan yan? Ito. Is reported net of amounts for which of the following items? Contractual adjustments, yes. Ito, yung such as PhilHealth. Budget expense, no. Yung expense mo, sa baba pa niyan. Revenue to eh. Yung mga expenses, sa baba pa. Nakuha mo yan? So that's why answer dito is A, one only. And the last one class, number 23, ex-hospital operated by a religious organization, billed patients 4 million. So report natin yan. Okay, so 23, lalagay natin yung sa gross patient service revenue. Gross patient service revenue, SR na lang. How much? 4 million, tama? And then, rather during the year, the hospital realized cash of 3.5, again, accrual method tayo, because of the following reductions. Contractual adjustments, yes, ililess natin yan. Contractual adjustments, CA na lang, 140,000. Granted to private insurance companies. Uncollectible AR. So, sabi ko dito, applicable IFRS, tama? Kapag may uncollectible AR ka, i-write off mo yan. Paano ka ba mag-entry kapag write-off? Debit ADA, credit AR. How much? 360. Therefore, sa entry na yan, walang effect sa income statement or sa statement of activities. Ignore mo lang yan. That's why 4 million minus 140, 3,860,000. This is your net patient service revenue. Final answer, 3,860,000. That is letter B or boy. Okay. So that's the end of our discussion for non-profit organizations.